So Chief, one of the suspects knocked on doors in your community?
That is correct. So what ended up happening is when the reverse 911s went out, everybody was told to shelter in place. This individual, once it got light, we were not going to go in during the dark. It is very unsafe to go searching for somebody that might be armed in darkness. So as the light started to come on, I think the individual started to move around and made his way to a house on Sheila Lane, knocked on the door, saying that he was involved in a motor vehicle accident and was looking for assistance. Of course, he fit the description of exactly who we were looking for, and then he absconded back into the woods. Eventually, we ended up tightening the perimeter, used a canine, and were able to find him in the woods and apprehend him.
Were those residents aware of that you were looking for someone, or did they just think this was odd, and did they get any notification at that time on their cell phones about the alert you had put out?
They knew that there was a police operation going on and that we were looking for suspects in the area. You need to shelter in place. If you see anything, give us a call.
So it was suspicious to them?
I would think so, if they were told that we were looking for some people and they were, all of a sudden they got knocks on the door and so forth, and they kind of knew something was up. And they fit the description, so they did the right thing. We're very appreciative of that. It's because of that we were able to apprehend the individual. Without the help of the public, it probably would have took us a lot longer to find this individual in the area.
So Chief, you said you don't believe the third individual is in the area. Is there any danger to the public in the area?
No, we lifted the shelter in place because we do not believe that the individual is still there. It's almost 10, 11 hours now since the accident, so we don't believe that the individual is there. I mean, we searched everywhere we could and this and that, and we just do not believe that individual is still in the area, and we do not believe it's unsafe for the public right now.
So this Gonzalez guy, where is he from? Do you have an age on him?
He's from Fall River, and I believe I have an age of 34.
34.
And then Chief, maybe you can speak about, was this a random robbery? Do you believe these two parties knew each other? Can you speak on that at all?
That's under investigation right now. We're not certain what the ties are, but this was definitely a targeted situation. They had information that there was substantial money at this location, which we've recovered a good deal of money. Also, in this case, right now, we've recovered a firearm close by to the robbery scene where the foot pursuit was that we believe may be one of the firearms that were involved in this case. But again, that's all, this investigation is still at its initial stages. Detectives are still out interviewing. There's still the individual in Franklin, Mass. that we're also talking to, as well as the individual that we have here in Woonsocket.
And the two victims were tied up?
They were tied up with duct tape, yes, and they advised us that they were tied up actually at gunpoint by these two individuals who were masked and had gloves on.
And they called you, right? They called 911?
No, there was a nearby neighbor actually heard that these individuals kicked in the rear door of this apartment unit. A neighbor heard actually them people identifying themselves as that they were police, but knew that there was some type of a disturbance from yelling that was going on, and that individual called us and believed that there was her neighbor was being robbed, and that was that's the call that we had got.
Is your other suspect also from Massachusetts?
Brockton, the one that we have,
The guy at
which
large.
I'm not going to give out any details on that third individual that we're looking for right now.
Would you mind repeating the name of the first person that surrendered?
The first person that that came out and surrendered was Jerome, Jerome, Tyson, Tyson, Lopes, Lopes, and we believe he's about 29 years old, and he's from Brockton, Mass.
So did these guys who broke into the house to come after the money have any prior association with the folks that in the house?
It's all in early stages of investigation.
Just wonder if they were strangers?
Yep. No, that's all part of the ongoing investigation.
Just wonder if there's information about the money in the house. Does that leak out to a third party, or is...
We believe there was, or in fact, we know there was some postings on social media that probably played some role in them going to this location.
The age of Mr. Gonzalez again?
Age of Mr. Gonzalez is 34.
Thank you.
Chief, what's the next step in terms of locating that third suspect?
We're actually, obviously talking to his two associates that were apprehended, and as the chief said, the investigators from both Massachusetts and Rhode Island, with whatever information we have, we're in the initial stages, so we're confident we're going to be able to identify who that third individual is.
So do you have, I hate to be so tedious, but do you have a spelling on that guy, Gonsalves? Is it a C or a
It's Goncalves.
T-A-L? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Russ, one last question. Could you just explain sort of like what went into an operation like this? We saw a lot of, it looks like SWAT, lined up, on certain streets while, other police had certain streets blocked off.
I'll turn that back to the chief because it happened in Massachusetts, but I just want to personally thank the chief and Franklin Police and for them coordinating the efforts that happened in Massachusetts, that were able to secure that scene. We were luckily the first individual decided to surrender very quickly, but that second individual was not coming out. He had buried himself in the woods, and I'll let the chief speak to that, but it was the hard work of that response team and those officers that set it up that we were able to apprehend that second subject who was not giving himself up. Chief?
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, so the individuals that you saw out there, they're part of what's called the Metropolitan Law Enforcement Council. In Massachusetts, there are 5 LECs, Metro being one of them. It's 47 towns and cities and 2 sheriff's departments. We share resources, we share personnel, and there's several units. You've got the cyber crimes unit out of Norwood, you've got ISU, which is the investigative services unit, which is all detectives. There are a number of different units, but this one it's the Metro Star Unit, Special Tactics and Response. It's made up of SWAT officers. They also do search and rescue. So they're highly trained. They just did some training 2 months ago specific to this, looking for armed fugitives in wooded areas at night. The weather, otherwise we would have had the drone up, with the FLIR. We probably would have been able to find them even sooner, but because of the weather, we couldn't get the drone up. But that's the reason that we call them. They're very good at what they do. 65 of them responded, even on a weekend like this with the holiday. They're fantastic, and when you want something done and done right, you call Metro SWAT, and they do it.
Was there any kind of resistance when you found this guy in the woods? Or what was the circumstances in that?
He was buried like a tick into the ground.
Buried like a tick.
Correct.
Interesting. Buried like a tick.
He was hiding best he could. Once we got close enough to him, and the dog was pretty close, saw him and all that, and then that was it. He gave up.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
One more
I'm sorry,
question.
sure,
The
go ahead.
pursuit that ended in Franklin, how did that end? Where did they crash into? Like, what kind of were the logistics of that crash?
They crashed into a telephone pole not far from the corner of Washington Street and Sheila Lane.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.